Ace Spec cards are making a triumphant return in Temporal Forces later this year. The Pokemon Company have finally finished revealing all 7 Ace Spec cards that we will get as part of that set. So today, I thought we would take a moment to rank them all. I'm Jet from inthirdperson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, let's go and rank these Ace Specs from worst to best. And just a quick primer on what Ace Spec cards are, if you're not aware. They are items, tools, or special energy, and there could be different types of Ace Specs going forward, but these are what Ace Spec cards are right now. And the big gimmick with Ace Specs is you're only allowed 1 Ace Spec card per deck. These are supposed to be incredibly powerful cards, and they're so powerful that you can only have 1 of these in your deck at a time. This mechanic first debuted in 2012 with Boundaries Crossed, and it is making its return as part of Temporal Forces on March 22nd, 2024. We've got 7 Ace Specs to look at here, and we are going to start all the way at the bottom with Master Ball. This is the only reprint of a Ace Spec card from the olden days that's coming back. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw certain other Ace Spec cards. I know there's a lot of people clamoring for stuff like Computer Search and Dowsing Machine. Those have not been revealed yet to come back. I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but we did get Master Ball instead, and it lets you search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. There's no having to discard cards. You don't have to put it right to your bench. There's no restrictions. Just grab a Pokemon. And because it's fine, Master Ball being able to grab a Pokemon is of your choice without it being a basic or being under a certain threshold of HP. It's fine. However, relative to the other Ace Specs, I think it's the worst one, and I think a part of that is just the existence of other Pokemon search, including Ultra Ball, where you can just discard 2 cards and grab a Pokemon of your choice. And yes, you have to discard 2 cards, but in a number of cases, you actually want to discard cards, whether you're thinning out your deck or thinning out your hand to let Beebrel draw more cards, or you're discarding energy to reattach it later. There are a lot of reasons you would want to discard cards on top of getting a Pokemon of your choice. And most of the time, Ultra Ball is just going to be better, and you can use another Ace Spec that is going to be more useful and give you more unique functionality than just arguably a slightly better Ultra Ball. So at the bottom, Master Ball. Number 6 is Hero's Cape, and it's not necessarily towards the bottom because the effect is bad. Granted, 100 HP on the Pokemon of your choice is absolutely insane, with certain Pokemon like a Charizard being able to go up to 430 HP, or the recently revealed Torterra EX, 440 HP. Absolutely monstrous. But in the current meta that we are in, we have a card called Lost Vacuum, and that is a popular card that is used to remove stadiums and tool cards, and your opponent can just vacuum away your Hero's Cape before you see any benefit from it. And I think that's going to be a hindrance to all Ace Specs going forward, is that any sort of tools can be easily discarded with a popular card, and we're just going to have to keep that in mind, which does for the most part, hurt the value of many of the Ace Spec tool cards today and going forward. Number 5 is Reboot Pod. This one is specifically for future decks, where for each of your future Pokemon in play, choose 1 basic energy from your discard pile and attach it to that Pokemon. So theoretically, you could get up to 6 energy onto 1 Pokemon. And it could be better later. There's still lots of time for more viable future attackers. So far, I've been largely unimpressed with the future attackers we've seen thus far. Like maybe Iron Hands is the best one, but you're not necessarily building your entire deck around Iron Hands. Some of the new ones do like weird spread damage or just don't hit that hard. So I don't necessarily see the benefit right now for accelerating all of this energy. On top of that, you have to get a whole bunch of energy in the discard pile to begin with, and then pop off with this card. So this Wombo combo feels a little too clunky to use IMO There could be uses for it more down the road besides just being able to accelerate Iron Hands in another way. There could be some more future attackers, and there might be some in the Temporal Forces set that I'm totally forgetting about right now that make this card a little better. I don't necessarily think this card is bad. I think it's good. It's just that I don't think there are enough viable attackers to make use of it right now. And I still think the wombo combo of getting all that energy in the discard pile first is a little clunky for my liking. Number 4, Neo Upper Energy. As long as this is attached to a Pokemon, it's colorless energy, but if you attach this to a stage 2 Pokemon, this is 2 rainbow energy. Any 2 energy you want, but it only provides 2 at a time. Like, colorless energy or rainbow energy is incredibly powerful in the game, and being able to just have 2 of any type is awesome. However, it being limited to, I think one of the benefits as well is that you can attach this to an EX. There's reversal energy where this only works on non-rule box Pokemon, and you have to be behind on prizes. This is only 2 energy, but this can work on any stage 2. So that is nice. However, there just aren't that many stage 2 Pokemon that will really take advantage of this. Like Charizard, I have on the screen here, technically benefits, but Charizard doesn't really have any issues with energy acceleration. There are some other decks off the top of my head, like maybe an Alakazam, Blastoise, Meowscarada, that could take advantage of this, and I'm sure there will be some other stage 2s down the road. So I don't necessarily hate this card. It is good, but relative to some of the other options here, this definitely feels like more of a niche tech, and I just don't see it being as strong as some of the other ones on this list. Number 3 is Awakening Drum. This one lets you draw a card for each of your ancient Pokemon in play. So theoretically, you could just draw up to 6 cards if you're playing an ancient deck. And there's some really cool ancient Pokemon in the game right now. Roaring Moon, Brute Bonnet, and the other Roaring Moon, the single prize Roaring Moon, and there's a bunch of other ones, Koraidon. There's multiple Koraidon that look pretty good. There are ancient Pokemon IMO seem to look a lot cooler to me in terms of gameplay than the future ones at the moment. And with the combination of Sada's Vitality being to accelerate and draw 3 cards, and then on top of that being able to draw a whole bunch of extra cards with this Ace Spec in order to get you set up very quickly, this seems really cool. The trade-off here is that this is only going to benefit ancient decks. So this is not going to be for everyone, and I think even ancient decks are probably going to want to keep their eyes on the other 2 cards on this list, but I'm not mad at the existence of Awakening Drum. I think it's a cool card. It's a strong card, and if you're playing a deck featuring ancient Pokemon, you definitely got to consider this one. Number 2 is Maximum Belt, and I know what you're thinking. Jet, didn't you trash Ace Spec tool cards because they can be vacuumed away? Yes, yes, I did. But there's 2 big differences with Maximum Belt versus Hero's Cape. And one of those is that the effect of plus 50 damage on EXs is absolutely nuts. There are going to be so many scenarios where you can now take a one-shot on an EX where you could not before. One of the most obvious examples is Giratina V-Star can now use Lost Impact with this Maximum Belt on to just one-shot a Charizard EX while still having Star Requiem in hand to just wipe out a second one, which is absolutely incredible. There are going to be some other use cases with other Pokemon being able to take one-shots in scenarios where they couldn't, which could be enough. And the other factor here that I like about Maximum Belt versus something like a Hero's Cape is that this is an effect that takes effect on your turn. You can go and put this Maximum Belt on, get the benefit of it, even if it's only once. If you can take that extra one shot in a scenario where you normally couldn't, that could be enough. If they don't vacuum it, even better. But even if they do, on your turn, you still got to get the extra 50 damage versus something like a Hero's Cape where your opponent could vacuum that away before you even get the benefit of it. And I might be a little biased. I love Choice Belt, and any sort of damage modifiers I find really good, and plus 50 is absolutely incredible. I know it's only a one of, but I just feel like there is so many cases where you're going to be able to extend in a way that gets you to the end faster than you wouldn't have. So this is why I've got this at number 2, even though the Lost Vacuum is looming in the meta and absolutely could make this you could make a case for this being lower on the list. But plus 50 damage to EX Pokemon, especially in this current meta and going forward, I think EX Pokemon are going to be even more prevalent in competitive play. So a card like this is absolutely incredible, but not incredible enough to knock out number one. The number one card is Prime Catcher. This is an incredibly powerful effect. You get to switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot, and if you do, you get to switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. This is basically a cross switcher instead, but it's only one item instead of having to find two pieces. It's Guzma, except Guzma's a supporter card. This is a single item with gusting, and yes, it's a little weird in the sense that you have to also switch out one of your Pokemon, but oftentimes you probably have a single retreat HP Pokemon or a free retreater that you can just pivot back into, or you've got another attacker ready to go on the bench. I do find that extra move and having to figure out how you pivot a little clunky versus something like a Boss's Orders, but having any sort of gusting options in the game is incredibly strong, and having a item-based gust where you can still play a supporter on top of that. Imagine just playing gusting out a target of your choice and then being able to Iono them down to 2 cards, or discarding your hand and draw 7. This is absolutely ridiculous. Whatever awkwardness that may come with possibly having to move your attacker out of the active and trying to figure out how to get back in, I think it's totally worth it for the effect of item-based gust. And I think that at this point in time, Prime Catcher is far and away the best Ace Spec card. Pretty much every deck is going to want to choose this. Right now, the other ones are pretty cool. I personally really like Maximum Belt, and I think there are a lot of use cases for that as well. But Prime Catcher feels like the most universally beneficial card, which is why it's number one on my list. Thus concludes my rankings of the upcoming Ace Spec cards from worst to best. Would you organize them any differently? Do you think I'm underrating something, overrating something? Are there any old Ace Spec cards that you want to see come back? Let me know in the comments below. And maybe you've got some crazy ideas for Ace Spec cards of your own. Let me know those as well. But for now, I gotta get going. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at InThirdPerson. You can find me on Twitch at InThirdPerson, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And check out the website, inthirdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.